Ryan, what are your plans with defensive coordinator? I know you're probably not going to make any grand proclamations right now, but what are your general plans with defensive coordinator?
Yeah, I mean, as we head into this bowl time right now, in recruiting is like crazy. So we're focused on that. We're focused on these guys. We're focused on the bowl game right now, and that's really where our focus is right now.
With the transfer portal, not just guys leaving, I want to focus on guys that you might be bringing in, not specific names, obviously. What are some positions you're targeting? How many guys might you bring in? Just in generality, what can you speak about that?
I mean, there's so many guys who are in the portal right now. It's mind-boggling, and I think everyone's just astonished by what's been going on, and certainly I'm one of them. But you have to take in the dynamics of your team into consideration, and so we're doing that, and we're not just going to be flippant about those decisions. And I think your team and the chemistry of your team is something that we have to really be on top of, because all it takes is a couple guys and now you can get yourself out of whack. Because when we recruit young men, we bring them in to develop them, and we talk to them about what it's going to be like when they get here and developing them into really good players. And bringing guys in can kind of upset that, and we don't really want to do that unless we need to. There's certain needs. We've done that before here, right? We had Justin come in, and that was the right thing at the right time. Jonah Jackson was the right thing at the right time. Trey Sermon was the right thing at the right time. And so I think we've been really smart about that. Noah Ruggles worked out well. So really, that's not something that we count on, but it's something that we'll use when we need to. And we're evaluating all those guys that are in the portal, even though there's a lot of them right now. And we'll just kind of see how things shake out here.
Coach, what have the last few days been like for you guys in terms of dealing with the emotions of the frustrating end of the season, but also trying to quickly recognize the window of recruiting and rally guys to still want to be a part of this thing moving forward?
Yeah, I think all of our guys have a lot of pride in themselves and a lot of pride in this team, and there's been a lot of hard work and a lot of progress that was made all year from when we started this thing. And so we want to finish this thing the right way. We have a really good opponent in Utah, great bowl in the Rose Bowl, and so we want to have a great month. And so we've kind of let them, get healthy. We had a lot of guys sick here the last couple of weeks, and so we're getting those guys healthy again. We worked out a little bit last week. We're going to do that again this week, and then start our practice. And it's really in 3 phases. We're going to start on fundamentals, then we'll get into game planning, and then we'll get to the bowl site, and we'll have game week there. And that's really what the focus is on right now. I think there's a lot of lessons that have been learned from the last game, and that'll obviously motivate us moving forward. But right now the focus is on this Rose Bowl and sending out the seniors in the right way, and I know everybody in the program wants to do that.
College football playoff era, there's so much focus on being one of the top 4 teams and getting in the playoff. I know that's your goal. At the same time, playing in the Rose Bowl is a big deal. What's the tenor of the locker room right now from those guys understanding at least the opportunity they have in front of them is still a special one?
Well, I think that's exactly what you said. I think the goal here is to win championships, and that's a goal that we have year in and year out, and we didn't reach that goal. However, we have an opportunity to go play in a very tradition-rich Rose Bowl, and that means a lot. And it's a New Year's Six bowl. And the 16th time, I believe, Ohio State's been in the Rose Bowl, so there's a lot of tradition that's led up to that. And I know that our guys are going to want to play hard and win that game.
Front row right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, when Quinn told you guys that he was going to go into the portal last week, what was your reaction to that? Were you surprised? What were your just feelings on that?
Well, I think he was in a very unique situation for sure. And we wish him nothing but the best of luck moving forward. But boy, there's just a lot that's going on right now in college football with a lot of this stuff, whether it's early enrollees or the transfer portal and those type of things. And we're just going to do the best we can to try to adapt as time moves on. But we certainly wish him nothing but the best of luck.
Handle a situation like that? Do you preach patience? How do you communicate with the player who's in that situation, like when?
Well, you try to do the best you can on the front end of explaining exactly what is going to happen, and then do the best you can of communicating and following through with it. And then, but things change, and you have to adapt.
You've had 2 quarterbacks now in the portal in the last week. Do you have a set number of, I guess, scholarship guys you want to have on your roster for next year?
Yeah, we always want to have either 3 or 4. That's always been the case, but it's not always that easy, as you remember. When Dwayne was here and when Justin was here. I mean, some of those years we had 2, sometimes 3, and a lot of guys want to play, and I get it. So again, we'll just try to do the best we can to forecast it, and we feel really good about the guys we have on our roster right now.
Third row left, Dan Holt, 11 more.
Ryan, you guys, we're pretty much dominated at the line of scrimmage in the Michigan game. Does that force you to kind of reconsider your philosophy at all and put more of an emphasis on winning in the trenches?
Well, I mean, our goal every game is to win the line of scrimmage, is to run the football and be physical and play great defense. So, we'll continue that. I think this bowl practice we'll have an opportunity to get back out there and really emphasize pad level and hand placement. And but every time, certainly we go on the road, it's very important in this conference. But every time we play a game, the major focus is on running the football and stopping the run.
Josh Gaddis was on the radio last week. He said, you guys are a finesse team. You're not a tough team. What do you think when you hear something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think much about that at all.
You mentioned you had a lot of players sick. Did that affect your game plan at all going into that Michigan game?
No, I mean, it was real. But, no one, it doesn't really matter. You got to overcome it. And it didn't affect the game plan at all, but it's just something that you have to overcome.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Lettermen Row.
I know you guys just found out, officially 40 minutes ago where you're going, and everyone wants to look ahead and say, well, how motivated will Ohio State be for this game? Will they have a bunch of opt-outs? What is your sense of that as you just stand here right now? I know it's a long month.
Well, yeah, it's a long month, but I think our guys are very, very competitive, and they take a lot of pride in who they are in this team, and so, we're going to get right to work here this week and start grinding towards it and work towards the game and play really good in the game, again, I just think it has a lot to do with the pride that they have in this team and who they are.
If you have situations like an opt-out, I know that's another one of the new sort of dynamics of the bowl era, playoff era. How would you want to handle that? Do you need to know early, get decisions? How will that work this month?
Yeah, we'll deal with that on a individual basis, based on how it all shakes out. But right now, count on everybody to play in the game.
Front row left, Bill Landis, The Athletic.
Ryan, I know you said you're focused on this bowl prep here, but the nature of the coaching business is such that I don't think you can probably stand pat and wait and focus on that if you're looking to bring in somebody new. So is it your intention to bring in a defensive coordinator from the outside, and how do you plan on handling that yourself as your team tries to get ready to play in the game?
Yeah, like I said, we're gonna do the best we can. I mean, we're always gonna be evaluating and seeing what's the best to move forward, and if there's any updates on that, I'll let you guys know.
Have any? You said no players have indicated to you yet that they're going to not play in this game, correct?
Right.
Okay. And then another guy that went in the portal, Craig Young, we've talked about him a few times this year. It did seem like he was maybe poised for a role this year that never kind of materialized until very late. Just how do you think that was kind of managed with him, and I guess like what the discussions I guess were with him about making that decision to leave the program?
Yeah, I think Craig felt like he just wanted of an opportunity to play more, and so, I think that's probably common with some of the guys who have decided across the country. I know at one point, it was like 80 guys a day averaged in the portal, which is unbelievable. But, I think he just wanted an opportunity to play more. And so, again, wish him nothing but the best of luck. Certainly, we don't like to see guys leave, but understand that, unfortunately, this is becoming somewhat of the norm. And as coaches, it's kind of hard sometimes, but we're going to have to kind of adapt and move forward.
Right next door, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Right. Obviously, there's a lot of player movement, but there's also a lot of coaching movement this year that kind of changes some things. When there's this much of coaching movement, how does that maybe change, or does it at all change, I guess, the recruiting philosophy and the way you guys approach things here? You're going to have to press the reset button a little bit as far as where you want to attack.
In terms of recruiting?
Yeah.
I mean, we try to talk to our guys all the time about, to make sure you pick the school for the right reasons, and then there's a lot of guys out there whose coaches have moved around a little bit, and And so maybe there's some of those guys that'll reconsider and consider other options. Maybe there's going to be more guys that don't sign on the early signing date. That might be part of it as well. And for the guys that we had been recruiting early on that maybe decided to go in another direction, those are the ones that you can kind of grab onto a little bit because you have a relationship prior. The ones that you don't have a relationship with, it's a little harder to kind of get that built up in a short period of time. However, we're going to kind of look at all those things, and when you can bring people in and you can do some home visits and things like we're back on the road doing again, you can make up time right there.
Do you feel like if there are going to be changes, especially on the defensive side of the ball, do you feel like you need to have that in place with signing day maybe around the corner, and there are some defensive guys who are still kind of considering you guys?
Well, I think, again, the guys that we're recruiting right now, they feel really strong about Ohio State. I think they feel like this is where they want to be, and for a lot of reasons. And so I feel really good about our class right now. We're still going to look at a few more guys and see if there's some guys we can add to it, and then kind of go from there. And then in January, I think that's more of the 2023 class, and that's where the focus goes there, is that we make that transition.
Right side aisle, Adam King, WBNS 10 TV.
Coach, this is your first selection Sunday as a head coach, not seeing the name pop up on the screen. How much, you talk about the players, and how much does that kind of motivate you as a coach right now for next year?
Well, I don't need any more motivation, but certainly disappointing not to see, ourselves in the top 4 like that. That's our goal as we head into every year. And it's been a tough week for us, but you can only feel sorry for yourself for so long. You got to move on. You got to get back to work, and that's what we're going to do.
Compared to maybe other losses so far since you've been the head coach, how different was Saturday's loss? How much has it lingered? How has it kind of been around the league?
Yeah, it's tough. The rivalry game is the rivalry game for a reason, and it means a lot to a lot of people. So when you don't win, there's a tremendous amount of pain, and nobody knows that more than the players and the coaches here. And hard to swallow. You can't just move on after one day. It just doesn't work that way. Like I said in the post game press conference, it's going to leave a mark, and we knew that, and it's gonna hurt for a while.
Right next door, Clay Hall, WSYX.
Ryan, did Ewer's decision blindside you? Did he just come to the realization he wasn't going to hop over CJ, or how did he express that, if you can share?
Yeah, I'd rather not get into too many of the details, but yeah, kind of caught me a little bit for sure. Yeah, a little bit off guard.
And front row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Kind of following up on that idea, like when you started this process, you were upfront about, everyone was going in eyes wide open about how departures would happen. Has the ground shifted at all? Just because when you started that, you didn't have NIL, you didn't have immediate eligibility for the
Sure.
first-time transfers. Does that shake it up a little bit, and will it shake up how you have to approach this going forward?
Yeah, I think when you look at the landscape of college football in general over the last year, 2 years, boy, it's really changed, and it's continuing to change. And so there's just a lot of dynamics at play in all this stuff: roster management, recruiting, portal, and that's, as we move forward, just trying to navigate what that looks like on a year in and year out basis. And when you look at the numbers statistically of the people who are going into the portal and going to other schools, it's significant. And so we have to adapt, and we'll keep identifying and evaluating and figure out what's best for us.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You said that there were like hard lessons learned from the Michigan game. I guess just what immediately comes to your mind is like the thing that has to be corrected now with just a few weeks before the next game?
Well, I think there's some things that we'll get into certainly, down the road, but just like immediately, we've got to obviously do a better job stopping the run and running the football. That's the number one thing that you recognize, and we weren't able to get some stops really in the second half, and I think if we had, it would have been a different game.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you've been asked about motivation for the Rose Bowl. I imagine Utah's press conference, there's not a lot of questions about that for them. They're excited to play Ohio State. How do you get these guys to the level of your normal game prep, given that this is certainly not what you wanted, as you said?
Well, I think it goes back to the leaders of the units, to the position coaches, to everybody involved with it, to understand that, you know, when you play in a Rose Bowl, I mean, it matters, and it's a very, very important game, and, you know, we take a lot of pride in who we are, and that's really what it comes down to. And so, again, when your leaders are leading the way that way, and they understand how important this is, and then for the young guys, you know, this is an opportunity to catapult them into next year, and so I think, you know, everyone's hurting from the last game. This is an opportunity to kind of change that feeling a little bit.
And you've talked about, you know, coaching Michigan and all these things you get to do as Ohio State's head coach. Being a head coach in the Rose Bowl, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's a tradition rich bowl game, and there's so many great people that have played in that game, and certainly a ton of coaches that have coached in that game, and so it's always an honor to be a part of something like that.
Third row right, Jeremy Birmingham, Lettermen Row.
Hey Ryan, obviously this is the first time since you've been here that you go into this week, or last week I guess, after a loss. I mean, how did that change the conversations on the recruiting trail? Does it change your focus and what you have to tell kids? I mean, just interested in the back and forth that comes from that.
No, I think the recruits and their family have been great. I mean, they know what this is all about. They know about our culture. They understand, you know, what a great program we have, and they love it, and they love everything about it. And so, you know, there are teams across the country who will win and lose games, and they, you know, kind of move on. Here at Ohio State, when you lose a game like that, it hurts for a while. And so I think they want to play in a program where games like that matter, and they're playing for everything. The consequences are high. That's just the way that you know, it is here at Ohio State. I think that they can recognize that. They understand that. I think that's one of the biggest things that attracts a lot of these guys to come into to be a Buckeye.
Are you able to turn, and not to turn the loss into a silver lining, but you haven't had that extra week of recruiting in 5 years.
Right.
I mean, is that something that you guys think can be a benefit to you now that even though you have to do it in a loss?
Yeah, I certainly don't want to be on the road that week, but it does allow us more time to get out there and be around some of the families. And being 2 years since we really, you know, I've been on the road, and these, you know, guys have been on the road. It's hard. You know, it hasn't been easy. So, you know, we're continually working towards, you know, building those relationships, getting back into high schools, and it's amazing how long it's been. And so it's good to get back out there and see these people.
Second row left, Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach, I presume the handwriting was on the wall with the Rose Bowl, and did you watch the game Friday night? And they did a number on Oregon for the second time in 2 weeks. Just what do you see with Utah? It looks like they're a hard physical team that's going to come to play.
Yeah, I did not see the game, and I have not really watched much film on them. But I know Coach Whittingham's a very, very good coach, and like you said, you know, known for being strong and being powerful in the run game and playing really good defense. So looking forward to getting on the film and seeing where we go.
You touched on the portal a little bit. Just watching your team play this year, you tried to benefit yourself with EA, Mate Ote this past year, and the kid who went to Alabama as well. You guys are kind of messing with him a little bit. Do you see, would that be a glaring need for you to find somebody, an experienced linebacker who could come in and participate right away if you were to dip your toe into the portal?
Well, I think we're looking at all those positions to figure out what would make sense. Is it to add a guy through recruiting in the high school, you know, process, or is it the portal? And we'll look at all those positions. You know, we were a little thin at linebacker at times this year, and be maybe a little bit thin moving forward. So we got to make sure we bolster up that room. But that's the thing at all positions you try to figure out. Is it, again, do you bring in a young high school guy that you want to develop, or do you bring in a portal guy who's maybe a little bit older? But there's a lot of things to consider, and that's what I was mentioning early, is just the dynamic of the room and, you know, the chemistry of the team.
Middle back, Whitney Harding, WCMH.
Hey Ryan, I mean, still an Ohio team in the playoff. And you talk about the change of the landscape of college football. What does it mean, what Luke Fickell has done at Cincinnati, and for them to get in, the goalpost just kept moving, and they kept reaching? What does it mean?
Well, I think they've done a great job, and nothing but a tremendous amount of respect for what they've done, and congratulations to them. It's not easy to go that far undefeated, and to bring that week in and week out is tremendous, and wish them nothing but the best of luck in the playoff.
You also mentioned some of the guys using these practices to look ahead to next year. How critical are some of these practices, not just getting ready for the Rose Bowl, but developing and doing those things that you guys haven't really gotten to do as much the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's really important. And we just got off with a team meeting at 2:45. We just grabbed them on a Zoom call just real quickly to talk a little bit about the Rose Bowl and talk about how important these practices are going to be for a lot of reasons, to kind of rebite for some of the old guys to get ready to play in this game, but then also for the younger guys to continually develop. And so we're going to do a really, really good job over the next couple of weeks of digging into those practices and making sure every practice counts as we head into this game week. Yeah.
Second row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, you've deflected questions about what kind of changes you're going to make. Just in a general sense, do you foresee major changes or minor tweaks? How do you kind of view the level of changes you got to make?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the process year in and year out is just looking to see what's right, and, I don't think, you go into any type of situation, with a predetermined set of thoughts. You just kind of figure out on a year-to-year basis what's best to move forward. And so we're evaluating that. We'll continue to evaluate. But really what we want to do is, give these guys a great bowl experience as we head into this game.
And you have to be aware of what's happened with coaching moves and coaching extensions and salaries. You do all right here, but you're probably in line for any kind of adjustment. Is there been any talk about that with you?
Yeah, like I said, I'm obviously honored to be the head coach here, and I love it here. And really the focus has just been on this bowl, and this has been a tough week for us, for just across the board after that game. And so, we've just been trying to, get back on the road and recruit. And this is a great place to be, and we have great kids. But I got to tell you, it was a tough week this week, and so we're kind of getting ourselves back up off the floor and getting back on the road recruiting. And it's going to be great to get back with these guys and get back to preparing for a game again, and that's really what matters.
And one quick one, you mentioned that guys have been sick for a couple weeks. I know you don't want to make excuses. How much were you affected? Not just CJ, who said he was ill. How many guys were affected by illness that week?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it sounds like losers lament when something like that comes up, so it's not even really worth talking about. But it was significant in the game, but that doesn't really matter.
Right behind him, Doug Lesmerises, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, you mentioned several times about what a tough week it's been. What do you mean by that? Have you had lots of discussions with coaches and players and guys just like you're usually getting ready for Big Ten Championship week? Is it personal that you've just been feeling that loss? Like what's it really been like?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above. I just don't think that any of us have experienced this before. I know I haven't experienced it. I know, this school hasn't experienced, Buckeye Nation hasn't experienced this in a long time. And so it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. And so, we're going to have to obviously take accountability for everything that happened and move forward, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
When you have gone back and rewatched the Michigan game, Michigan's good. They showed that again last night. Do you see, hey, they got us on some stuff, they're good, or do you see things where it's like, man, we got some issues we got to address? Like, what was the balance of, as you watched what happened, trying to figure out why it happened?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think they have very, very good players, and they did a good job in the game. But I also think there were some things in that game that we could have done a lot better. I think it's a combination of the two things. And I think there was a time there in the third quarter there where if we had done some different things, we had a chance to really win the game. And just got away from us. And so, again, now we got to own it.
Did you watch the Big Ten Championship game?
No.
We'll go far left. Mark Snyder, Press Pros.
Right. Do you know Kyle Whittingham at all, or anything about his system? He's been there for a long, long time.
Yeah, he took over for Coach Meyer and has been there ever since. And what a tremendous feat that is in and of itself in today's day and age to be somewhere that long. And but he's won a lot of games there. And I've met him several times. A real gentleman, real professional, and a very good coach.
And somebody made a comment, one of the TV people, about Utah's one team that really would have a say in a playoff expansion. If you could talk to the committee, what would your feelings be about expansion or keeping it the way it is, or going full-blown 12?
There's so many things and ripple effects and different things that come up with this that it's hard for me just to make a comment. I think it's easy for people just to say things, but there's a lot of ripple effects that happen if you decide to do this. What I've always felt like is if you win your conference, certainly if you win the Big Ten Conference, then you deserve to be in the playoff. We didn't do that this year, and so, we don't deserve to be in the playoff. But I do think that that's the way it should be. What that means, how that is, I'll leave that up to the experts. It sounds exciting to me, but I know that there's a lot more to it than just saying, let's just go to a playoff.
Over here to the far right, got time for just a few more. Dom Sperry, WBNS 10 TV.
Ryan, you had said this was not the goal, but you think you'll have your guys at the Rose Bowl. Just what's those conversations been like, and would it surprise you if some guys opted out?
I don't know. I know that they have, again, a lot of pride in themselves, a lot of pride in this team, and we put a lot of work in. We've made a lot of progress this year, and so, to finish it out that way, I know is not how they're going to want to do that. But, we'll have conversations with those guys and try to figure it out on an individual basis.
You haven't talked much through the season about CJ, but the Heisman's coming up. Just what's your statement on him, I guess, for the Lumen?
Yeah, I think his play speaks for itself, and what he did this year, I think he really grew, and the way he played kind of midway through the year and towards the end was very, very good. We didn't win the last game, obviously, but there were some games that he was only in there for the first half of some of those, so maybe his numbers would have been even higher if he had played in all those games. But I thought he really played well, and I think he deserves to be in New York.
Last thing, as a guy on the front lines dealing with the portal, the Quinn Ewers situation was different from anything we'd ever seen. He gave up his last year to come here, and I don't know, you could say it was a loophole or whatever. Do you think going forward with the NIL and stuff that there need to be changes and these kind of things need to be addressed?
I just think that there's been so many changes so fast that we need to take a deep breath and figure out what the consequences are for all of these decisions before we make more changes. There's just been so many things that have happened in college football here, and I think we're still trying to sort through what that all means. And it's going to probably be a little while before we sort through it all. We're going to see some different things come our way, and we're going to have to try to do the best we can to adapt to it. So it's hard for me to say because I don't even think we know all the consequences of everything that's happened. And we're just going to have to do the best we can to communicate it, identify what those things are, and try to make it great for Ohio State.
And final questions, third row right, Tim May, Lettermen Row.
Oh, thanks, Jared. I was going to ask you, Ryan, do you feel sometimes like you're sitting in the middle of a tornado and it's going around you and stuff? Especially with the tens of millions of dollars in coaches' contracts now, assistant coaches moving, the NIL and everything else. Are you worried about the long-term future of college football, at least the way people enjoy it, or at least what they're used to?
That's a great question. Well, there's definitely a tornado going on, and I think we all see that right now, just in general. And where it goes here, I don't know. I think the easy thing to do is to just throw up your hands and say this is crazy, but the harder thing to do is just to continue to push forward and just try to figure out what's best for Ohio State moving forward. Whether it's the NIL or all the things that are going on, expansion. You just try to do everything you can to try to figure out what's the next best thing to do, and you just do that. But there's a lot of multitasking going on right now and a lot of thinking on your toes, and that's okay. And it's sometimes hard to project what's going to be next. What's the next thing that's coming, but you do the best you can with it.
One other thing, I think the talking point between now and Rose Bowl is going to be the blueprint is out there about how to beat this Ohio State team, this modern Ohio State team, is run the ball down their throat and stop the run. A lot of what you talked about after the Michigan game, a little bit after the Oregon game and stuff. Do you use that to obviously use as motivation, but how do you challenge your team about what is on video out there right now and how to change it?
Well, I think the first thing is, we can do it. We're capable of doing it. We played against some really good rushing teams. You saw what, happened in the Michigan State game. Walker was one of the Heisman Trophy candidates leading into that game, and they really played well in that game. So it's not like we're not capable of doing it. We are. And we've played many games where we've run the ball really well, and we've played in games where we've stopped the run really well. And so identifying why that happened in that game is what's critically important. And that'll be played around here for the next month pretty often and trying to figure out why that happened in that game.
Great. Coach, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ryan.
Folks, I got to get him on the call, but I'll be right back. Give you a couple more